Approximately 90 million years ago, Antarctica was home to an extensive rainforest filled with exotic flora and fauna. However, everything changed when the Ice Age arrived and it transformed into the tundra we know today. With an area of 13.7 million square kilometers, most of which is completely covered in ice and snow all year round, there are many secrets hidden beneath the surface. Melting ice in Antarctica has revealed astonishing features, such as peculiar microorganisms and glaciers that make sounds. These discoveries show us the surprising diversity and mystery of this region, although they also remind us of the importance of protecting and preserving this fragile ecosystem. A world hidden 1,600 feet under the ice in Antarctica has been discovered. Researchers found an underground ecosystem with small shrimp-like organisms beneath the Larsen ice shelf. Using a hot water hose, they dug until they reached a hidden chamber underground. Amphipods were found swimming around the chamber, which surprised the research team. This indicates the existence of an ecosystem process underway at extreme depth. It was also discovered that the underground cavern did not look like what had been predicted, with an irregular ceiling and a column of water divided into several layers. The eruption of the Hunga Tonga volcano, a great distance away, generated pressure waves that affected the underground chamber. This discovery demonstrates the interconnection of the different elements of our planet. Known as ALH84001, it is a fragment of a meteorite from Mars that was discovered in the Antarctic region of Allen Hills. It was found on December 27, 1984 by a team of American meteorite hunters from the ANSMET project. This meteorite, weighing 1.93 kilograms, belongs to the Shergotite-Naklite-Chasignite group and is believed to have formed approximately 4.09 billion years ago from Martian molten rock. Its Martian origin has been confirmed by chemical analysis, which revealed the presence of liquid water on the surface of Mars in that period. The discovery of ALH84001 in Antarctica is due to terrain conditions that make it easier to detect objects that do not belong in the environment. The ANSMET project carries out annual expeditions to Antarctica, where they have found impressive rocks. It was Roberta Esker, Antarctic Meteorite Laboratory Manager, who discovered it in the remote western Allen Hills ice field. In 2005, research was carried out to study the origin of ALH84001. According to analyses, the meteorite appears to have broken off from Eos Chasma in the Valles Marineris Canyon, due to a meteorite impact approximately 17 million years ago. Radiometric dating studies indicate that ALH84001 arrived on Earth about 13,000 years ago. This meteorite has generated great interest due to the possible signs of biological life that have been suggested in it. In 1996, a group of experts claimed to have found evidence of Martian microorganisms in the meteorite, sparking intense debate. Although this theory was quickly rejected by the majority of the scientific community, it set a precedent for future advances in the field of astrobiology. Although the existence of Martian life in this meteorite has not been confirmed, its study has been fundamental in exploring the possibility of alien microorganisms on other celestial bodies. This reminds us that even if ALH84001 did not contain fossilized bacteria, we should not rule out the possibility of extraterrestrial life hidden in the core of other meteorites. A red waterfall called Blood Falls has been discovered in Antarctica. Geologist Griffith Taylor found it in 1911, and the color was believed to be due to red algae. However, it was recently discovered that the water comes from a subglacial lake rich in iron and salt. The water is expelled under pressure and oxidizes upon contact with oxygen, which gives it its red color. This waterfall offers scientists the opportunity to study microbial life without having to drill into the ice. The lake closed millions of years ago, and serves as a time capsule that houses unique microbial species that have evolved under extreme conditions. Other similar lakes are believed to exist beneath the frozen surface of Antarctica. Renowned geologists have long believed that ancient humans never settled in Antarctica because of its hostile climate. However, incredibly, in 2016 satellite images revealed a curious formation emerging from the ice, and some researchers believe it could be a man-made pyramid. Recently, there have been a number of reports about huge pyramids in Antarctica rising above the ice and looking perfect, just like those in Egypt, but surpassing them in size. One of them has perfectly square bases that span 2 square kilometers in each direction. It is possible, therefore, that our ancestors actually reached the Antarctic continent, perhaps even settled there, a man-made pyramid beneath the Antarctic ice. If such an incredible notion is true, then we naturally ask ourselves some questions. How was such a massive structure built in Antarctica? When was it done and by whom? We have been informed by geologists that Antarctica has been under ice for many millions of years. However, there is evidence that it may have been ice-free, at least in certain areas, until perhaps 4000 BC. There are numerous stories from Polynesia about the so-called culture heroes who came to the Antarctic continent. A French scholar named Argo compiled all of these different stories into a book titled Out of Antarctica, The Stories of the Polynesian People. They describe this strange land with white rocks emerging from the water, which are actually icebergs, and other creatures like seals and penguins, which seems to describe an area we now know as Antarctica. The Polynesian people believed this was the place of their ancestors and said, "This is where we originally came from." Is it really possible that the coldest place on Earth was once warm enough for human habitation? Well, in 2017, German geologists collected core samples from deep beneath Antarctica's frozen seafloor to analyze what the continent's climate might have been like thousands of years ago. What they discovered was amazing. In the case of that expedition in early 2017, we used very special seabed drilling equipment that had never been used in Antarctica before. When we used this special drilling equipment, we came upon the sediments and instantly observed more than 60 different varieties of plants that resemble those one would find in a tropical rainforest in a temperature regime similar to what we know today in the north of Italy. Finding that on the Antarctic continent was very exciting because the current climate conditions do not allow any vegetation to survive in those conditions. About 10% of the planet's land mass is covered in glacial ice. And as the world thaws, ancient creatures great and small are also being unearthed. In southern Chile, dozens of nearly complete ichthyosaur skeletons were dumped near the Tyndall Glacier. These marine reptiles lived between the Triassic and Cretaceous periods, which extended between 66 and 250 million years ago. 3-million-year-old insect fossils have been recovered in eastern Alaska that are blind weevils of the genus Tabaso. And in the western Yukon Territory, the species Notiophilus inus, better known as the big-eyed beetle. The most striking archaeological finds in Yakutia, a republic in northwestern Siberia, have been the corpses of woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, steppe bison and cave lions, large cats that once roamed the northern hemisphere. These extinct beasts had been suspended in their refrigerated tombs for 9 millennia or more, like jellied grapes. In 2018, a perfectly intact 42,000-year-old foal, a long-extinct species known as the Lena horse, was found buried in the ice of Siberia's Bataga crater, with urine in its bladder and liquid blood in its veins. On thin ice, among glacier archaeologists, it's an inside joke that their field of study has been one of the few to benefit from climate change. But while receding ice and snow makes some prehistoric treasures briefly accessible, exposure to the elements threatens to quickly destroy them. Once soft organic materials, such as leather and textile arrowheads, come to the surface, researchers have a maximum of a year to rescue them for conservation before they degrade and are lost forever. These puppies are theoretically 12,000 years old. The frozen puppies may help scientists discover when and where exactly dogs split into a separate subspecies of wolves and became the first domesticated animals in human history. Study of the findings showed that the cubs died at the age of approximately 3 months and died most likely having fallen in an avalanche. Scientists are going to use the discovered animal remains to investigate the domestication chronology of this species because so far, in the scientific community, there is still no consensus on the time and place where dogs were first domesticated by humans. In 2014, in the eternal ice of Siberia, researchers discovered a virus called phytovirus that had remained intact in the cold for almost 30,000 years and turned out to be a truly gigantic non-cellular infectious agent. The finding is recognized as unique because the phytovirus is the largest representative of viruses known to modern science. Additionally, viruses found in the Arctic are genetically much more complex than conventional viruses. The phytovirus contains 500 genes. By the way, discovered in 2013, the pandavirus, now recognized as the second largest virus on the planet, has up to 2,500 genes. Many scientists believe that it is extremely difficult to become infected with this prehistoric virus today. Although under optimal conditions, this danger is still possible. For example, if the body of a person who has died from this infection is found. Such a scenario is highly unlikely. But the very idea that unknown and potentially dangerous microorganisms are hiding in the eternal ice awaiting the day of their discovery has some experts seriously concerned. In 2015, 29 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle, scientists discovered traces of a mysterious medieval civilization. Although the discovery was made in the Siberian region, archaeologists have established that this town was related to Persia. The remains were wrapped in skins, presumably bear or wolverine skins, birch bark, and covered with copper objects. In permafrost conditions, the bodies in such a wrapper were literally mummified, therefore, perfectly preserved to this day. In total, at the site of the medieval site, researchers found 34 small graves and 11 bodies. Initially, it was believed that only men and children were buried there. But in August 2017, scientists discovered that among the mummies there is also a body that once belonged to a woman. Scientists called her the Polar Princess. Researchers believe that this girl belonged to the upper class, since she is so far the only representative of the female sex discovered during these excavations. Work on artifacts is still ongoing, so we may still have many surprising discoveries ahead of us. These are the mysteries beneath the ice. It is common knowledge that modern humans belong to the species Homo sapiens. However, what is not commonly known is how Homo sapiens appeared on the scene. The long evolutionary path that led to modern humans began with a single step, or more precisely, with the ability to walk on two legs. Sahelanthropus, one of our oldest known ancestors, began the long transition from ape-like mobility approximately 6 million years ago. But Homo sapiens would not appear for another 5 million years. During that time, various human species lived, evolved, and went extinct, mixing and sometimes mating along the way. Their bodies evolved over time, as did their brains and their ability to think, as evidenced by their tools and technologies. Scientists are unearthing ancient bones and stone tools, investigating our genes, and recreating the changing environments that helped shape our ancestors' world and guide their evolution. To better understand how Homo sapiens evolved from these ancient hominid lines, which include modern humans and our closest extinct relatives and ancestors, these lines of evidence point to the origin of Homo sapiens in Africa, although not necessarily at one time and specific place. Instead, it appears that distinct groups of human ancestors evolved physically and culturally in relative isolation until climatic changes in the African terrain led them to occasionally mix and trade, exchanging everything from genes to tool methods. Genetic studies in modern humans help us understand our migrations and evolution. Neanderthals, our oldest close relatives, lived about 430,000 years ago and share a common ancestor with us. There is also evidence of another species called Denisovans in our DNA, although few fossils of them have been found. Homo heidelbergensis, who lived between 200,000 and 700,000 years ago, could be a common ancestor. The fossils show mixtures of modern and primitive features, indicating different anatomical groups at different places and times in history. Fossils found in various locations in Africa show combinations of modern and archaic traits in humans. This suggests that people were dispersed across the continent from early times. Some fossils are classified as Homo sapiens due to their similarity to modern humans, but there are debates over whether they are a separate subspecies. Classifying fossils and determining when fully modern humans appeared remains a matter of debate. Cultural changes in Africa occurred about 300,000 years ago, with the transition to more advanced tools. Although there are fossils similar to modern humans, there are also cases of fossils with archaic features but relatively recent antiquity, such as the skull from the Iwo Elaru cave in Nigeria, which is 13,000 years old. Our ancestors evolved over time, developing more advanced tools and technologies. Millions of years ago they began using stone tools, and then adopted the Acheulean culture approximately 1.75 million years ago. Over time, hunting tools and techniques improved, such as the use of spears about 400,000 years ago. Evidence of different types of tools was also found in various locations, indicating the diversity of evolving human groups. Ancient tools have been discovered in India, suggesting the possibility that early humans migrated out of Africa earlier than previously thought. Additionally, fossil remains have been found on Mount Carmel in Israel, indicating the presence of modern humans between 177,000 and 194,000 years ago along the Mediterranean. Human remains have also been found in Kafsa, Israel, dating between 100,000 and 130,000 years ago, showing a long presence in the region. These discoveries provide evidence of the evolution and dispersal of our ancestors throughout history. Limestone caves with evidence from 80,000 to 120,000 years ago were found in southern China. A 100,000-year-old jaw fossil in Jirandong Cave has archaic features but also resembles Homo sapiens. Teeth that are barely recognizable as Homo sapiens were found in the Daoshan Cave, suggesting that they already lived outside Africa. It is speculated that migrations could have occurred even earlier, even reaching Europe around 210,000 years ago. Another controversial discovery is the skull fragment from Epidamus in Greece, with a possible age of more than 200,000 years. But there are debates about its classification and the accuracy of the dating due to the difficulty of preserving the fossils. Many tribes lived outside Africa, but they are not related to our evolution. Genetic analyses reveal that non-African people trace most of their lineage to a historical migration 50,000 to 60,000 years ago, made possible by changes in the sea and favorable climatic conditions. African migrants may have interacted with more archaic hominids, but their lineage appears to have disappeared or been replaced by later migrations. Throughout history, Homo sapiens was not the only human species. We coexist and interbreed with other hominids, some still unidentified. However, these species disappeared, leaving Homo sapiens as the only representative of humanity. An example is Homo floresiensis, known as the hobbit, a small human species found in Flores, Indonesia, until about 50,000 years ago. Although we do not know their fate, they are not related to modern humans. Neanderthals, on the other hand, were found in Eurasia from Portugal and the British Isles to Siberia. As Homo sapiens became more common in those regions, Neanderthals became extinct about 40,000 years ago. Although some evidence suggests that some survived in places like Gibraltar until 29,000 years ago, traces of them can still be found in the DNA of modern humans today. The Denisovans, mysterious cousins of the Neanderthals, left few identifiable fossils, and their appearance and number of species are still uncertain. Recent studies of the human genome in Papua New Guinea indicate that humans interbred with Denisovans about 15,000 years ago, although this is debated. Many Asians today have between 3 and 5% Denisovan DNA, revealing a shared past. The Dragon Man skull found in China in the 1930s has sparked debate and could change our ancestral history. The skull, believed to belong to a new human species called Homo longa or the dragon man, displays unusual features and extraordinary size. At least 146,000 years old, the skull combines ancient and modern traits in the human family tree. This discovery could have a significant impact on our understanding of human evolution. The Harbin skull, known as the dragon man, is related to other human fossils in Asia. Its identification and classification generate controversy. It could be related to the Denisovans, a sister group of the Neanderthals, but there are few fossil remains of them. This skull highlights the complexity of our family tree and the importance of understanding our mysterious ancestors. The Harbin skull is well preserved and displays an unusual combination of features. It has a low and wide shape with a high forehead, characteristics of ancient hominids. The tooth preserved in the skull has 3 roots, something unusual in modern humans. However, other characteristics are more similar to our own species, such as delicate, flat cheekbones. The researchers analyzed numerous fossils of hominid skulls, jaws and teeth, using a supercomputer to build phylogenetic trees and determine evolutionary connections. The Harbin skull was placed in a new branch closely related to our species. Some suggest classifying the Harbin skull as a separate species, Homo longa, but there is disagreement over its classification and position in the human family tree. Some argue that distinguishing characteristics could be variations within the same species. The dragon man, represented by the Harbin skull, is not considered a definitive separate species. Similarities have been found with the skull of Dali and the Denisovans, an enigmatic group that lived in Asia. A fragmented jawbone was recently discovered in Tibet that is believed to belong to the Denisovans, and the dragon man is closely related to this jawbone. According to the proposed new phylogenetic tree, the common ancestor of Neanderthals and Denisovans diverged from the ancestors of Homo sapiens about 600,000 years ago. Neanderthals spread across Europe and the Middle East, while Denisovans spread across Asia. Although the relations between these groups are close, their resolution is difficult. Genetic analyses are not being carried out on Dragon Man due to the destruction it would entail on the fossil. However, researchers remain cautious and open to new evidence. In short, Dragon Man represents a challenge to the classification and categorization of human ancestors. Their discovery highlights the complexity of nature and the difficulty of clearly defining species. The cold, harsh climate of 146,000 years ago at Dragon Man's location could have contributed to the skull's rugged features, according to the researchers. The isolated environment may also have played a role in the fossil's peculiarities. Complete data and detailed photos of Dragon Man are publicly available, allowing other researchers to further explore this hominid. Additionally, an ancient skull has been discovered in Israel that could be from a separate population of Homo that lived between 420,000 and 120,000 years ago. This population exchanged culture and DNA with surrounding Homo sapiens for thousands of years. The study revealed distinct characteristics in the parietal bone of this person, which differ from both early and modern Homo sapiens. These discoveries raise questions about the diversity and evolution of early humans, and researchers continue to analyze and compare the fossils to learn more. Dragon Man's skull has both archaic and Neanderthal characteristics, distinguishing him from other Homo sapiens. It is suggested that other fossils discovered in Israel could belong to this new human group. The Lady of Tabun, an important specimen, could be related to the Homo group of Nesharamla. This could explain some inconsistencies in their anatomy and suggests early gene flow between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. Interbreeding between these populations was more common than previously believed. 6,000 stone tools were discovered at the Nesharamla site, created similarly to those of contemporary Homo sapiens. This suggests that Nesharamla's Homo and Homo sapiens exchanged ideas and technology. Remains of animals hunted and consumed at the site were also found, including turtles, gazelles, wild boars and ostriches. In addition, A bonfire was found that demonstrated that the Homo of Nesharamla controlled and used fire in a similar way to Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. The preservation of this bonfire for so long is amazing. Today, it is the oldest intact bonfire ever discovered in nature. What do you think of these newly discovered species? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments section below.